Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of the Alumni Scholars Club, thank you for joining us tonight in honoring this year's winner of the My Last Lecture Award, Professor Donald Neuen. This is now the 5th edition of the My Last Lecture Award as it's been organized by the Alumni Scholars Club. And I can honestly say that we've come a very long way. This event has steadily risen in popularity among the student body for very good reason, I think. And to everyone in the audience, thank you for the enthusiasm and the support you've shown towards my last lecture, which represents truly a unique opportunity for students to get to know their professors outside of a classroom context on a deeper, more personal level, and to further enhance the relationship between teacher and student. But before we begin, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all of the individuals who made this event possible. Everyone on the executive board of the Alumni Scholars Club for their numerous contributions to this program, Anthony Coubet for his invaluable assistance, and of course, George Brown for providing much needed guidance throughout this entire process, for helping us navigate all the obstacles, and most of all, for always keeping our spirits up. Last but not least, I would like to offer my heartfelt thanks to everyone on the Vice President's Committee. These are the students who worked tirelessly throughout the entire year to plan this event from the ground up. And I cannot emphasize enough the scope and the importance of their contributions to this program. And without their help, I can honestly say that none of this would have been possible. So I've been working on the My Last Lecture Award for the past 4 years, ever since my very first quarter at UCLA. This is my last lecture, and I'm very pleased to leave on such a high note. This year we had an unprecedented voter turnout, and the fact that Professor Neuen won this award out of the 5,500 votes cast by undergraduates from every single department on campus is no small feat. The fact that he not only won out of all of the talented professors at UCLA, but on top of that, that he won by a very considerable margin is nothing short of exceptional in my eyes. And it's a testament to his ability as a teacher and as a mentor to his students as well. You know, over the past few weeks, I've had an opportunity to speak to some of Professor Neuen's students, and they always tell me the same thing, that he holds them to a higher standard of excellence, that he pushes them to persevere through adversity, and that he always brings out the best in them and makes them realize their full potential. When one walks out of his classroom, not only as a better musician, but truly as an entirely better individual. So rest assured, I'm confident that we're all in very good hands tonight. But I know that none of you came here to listen to me speak. So before I get carried away, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for tonight, Mr. Marty Sklar. Marty Sklar began his Disney career at Disneyland in June 1955, 1 month before the park opens. And 2 weeks after he started at age 21, he presented his Disneyland newspaper concept to Walt Disney, who fortunately liked it. And Marty says that's why his career at Disney lasted 54 years. After completing his last year at UCLA, Marty returned to Disneyland's Publicity and Public Relations Group in 1956, and he worked for the Walt Disney Company continuously until Disneyland's 54th birthday in 2009. For 30 years, Marty was a creative leader of Walt Disney Imagineering's vice president, president, and vice chairman and principal creative executive. He retired as executive vice president and Imagineering ambassador. He is the only Disney cast member to have participated in the opening of all 11 Disney parks around the world, and he was inducted as a Disney legend in 2001. In 2007, Marty received the prestigious Professional Achievement Award from UCLA, and starting in 2008, he served a 2-year term on the board of directors of the Alumni Association. And that is not even half of all of his accomplishments, which truly spanned an illustrious career. But most noteworthy for us is that if it wasn't for Marty Sklar, none of us would be here today. You see, during his time as an undergraduate at UCLA, Marty attended the very first My Last Lecture series in 1955. At the time, it was sponsored by the University Religious Center, and it featured a series of 6 lectures from various esteemed UCLA figures who all attempted to answer the same question: what would you say to your students if this was your last lecture on Earth? As the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bruin, Marty wrote an editorial covering our own Coach John Wooden's lecture. And 55 years later, thanks to his involvement on the board of directors of the Alumni Association, 2 graduated alumni scholars Max Velasco and Robin Doshi, read that very same editorial, and they were inspired to revive the My Last Lecture concept, this time under the mantle of the Alumni Scholars Club. So I can truly think of no one better to introduce this event tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Mr. Marty Sklar.
Oh my goodness, well, Paul, that was beautiful, and it's been my pleasure to work through Paul to meet Professor Neuen and to be here this evening. And by the way, I was recalling recently that first meeting I had with Walt Disney, and it was 2 weeks after I went to work in 1955, still a student here at UCLA. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was a turning point in my whole career. Because if Walt didn't like what I presented, they'd get some pro to do it, and I'd be out the door. Fortunately, he liked it. And when I look back now, in many, many years, it was 1955, it really was a turning point in my whole career. So when you make a presentation, wherever it is and to whomever it is, make sure you do the best you can do every time, because you never know if it's going to be the last time you get to do one of those. So, I'm so might have been my last lecture too. I'm so pleased that the Alumni Scholars Club created this new My Last Lecture program, even though it's a really daunting challenge. And I've been watching Professor Neuen here get ready for this. It's a daunting challenge for the professor who's asked to speak that last lecture. You know, what a challenge. What would you tell your audience if this was your last lecture on Earth? Wow. As Paul said, when I was editor of the Bruin way back in 1955 and wrote an editorial column entitled Wooden's Last Lecture, I said that fortunately it would not truly be Coach Wooden's last moment in the spotlight, that I hoped there would be many more in years to come. Fortunately, that was a wish that came true very big time. And now I can say the same about the man I have the pleasure to introduce this evening. Even though distinguished professor of music Donald Neuen is retiring this year, we all hope that that actually doesn't happen, but he says he's going to do it. He's scared of it, by the way. Ask him. Even though he's retiring this year, I know that the many, many students, music majors and lovers of choral music from many other majors who performed or just enjoyed Don Neuen's choral leadership for the past 21 years will always remember the love of choral music he brought to this campus. Much more than that, his love of you students was as sincere and strong as his love of conducting the UCLA Choral. In fact, when I met with Don in his office recently, that's what he talked about, you students, and how much he'll miss working with you. Don was a student himself of two of the greatest in choral music, Robert Shaw of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra and Robert Shaw Choral, and Roger Wagner of the famous chorale that bore his name. And now Don's own choral techniques and conducting methods are part of his widely used textbook called simply Choral Concepts. It's my great privilege to introduce for a so-named last lecture, but we hope and pray, not his last performance, the recipient of UCLA's 2013 Distinguished Professorship Award, Don Neuen.
guess this is not a very good time to be speechless. Thank you for coming out tonight. Some of you come a long way. Some of the studies you should be doing. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you for this honor. I know of no honor that exists that would mean more to me than this. Not my honorary doctorate or the distinguished professor stuff, or not conducting a Carnegie Hall or around, but none of that comes even close to something being given to you by students. Nothing pleases a professor or is more fulfilling to a teacher than the admiration and the love of students. So, I thank you far more than words could ever tell. A few more thank yous. All of them. Where are you sitting, Paul? Yeah. Very good. There was a gentleman, and he has been so kind to me from the moment he first told me about this and helping me get here tonight anyway. So thank you, Paul. And Marty Sklar, you know, there's something he alluded to a little bit, but I'm sure you didn't get the magnitude of it. He is not only a national treasure for the United States of America, he's an international treasure. He just didn't do some stuff at Disney. He and Walt Disney, that was it. That was it. They did, how many lives have they made happy? Countless lives are happier because of what you guys did. And this is what you didn't quite realize. He called me and said, may I come over to your office and see you and talk with you so that I could get to know you a little bit before I introduce you? Now, you will never know humility greater than that. You'll never know about professional care more than that. You're a role model and an example for everyone in this room. Marty. I got to thank you for the students who voted for me, and especially John Sy, who sort of got it going. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Picked up. And then I'm grateful for the thousands of singers who sung with and for me for 60 years. I started as a sophomore in college, director of church choir for $4 a week. And that was 60 years ago. And all the thousands and thousands of singers who worked so hard and sang so great, and you can't really know what that's like unless you're a choral conductor with a great choir and you have the best seat in the house and they're all 200 of them or whatever, it's 5,000 at one point, singing right to you. And I can imagine anything in career life that goes straight to your soul more than the sound of people singing great. And for the hundreds of conductors who come to study. And you need to know that giving thanks is not just thank you, thank you, thank you. I love to watch the Oscars, not because I really care who wins, but I love to see them say thank you. Some with smiles and jokes, some with tears going down both cheeks. But they really want to thank somebody so badly at that moment. We'll talk about thank you a little bit later tonight. But my thanks run deep. I'd like to thank Rebecca Lord, who's the Associate Director of Choral Activities right now. And without her, not only musically conducting and making musical things happen, but in charge of all the logistical and detailed organizational stuff that I'm just too old to do anymore. And she's making it happen, including our big Beethoven concert coming up in Royce Hall, and the $20,000 it costs to use that hall for our own students now. Saturday night, June 7th. And so I thank you for that. Lastly, I want to thank my wife, Sue, and I need, if this is my last lecture, for you to know my wife, Sue. You're right. I tell you, you'll find out that my students already know this. I will say anything personal, doesn't matter, to a group, because it's like I never talk to an audience. It's like I'm talking to one person, just you and I are talking in my office now about stuff. But God couldn't give me a more perfect wife of anyone in the universe. I mean, every day, 365 a year, just incredible. She was a voice major and a pipe organ minor in college, but she took all her electives in science and advanced math. All that stuff that And so when she graduated, she went to music. She got a scholarship to do it. But she loved science and math much more. So she took all her electives and that stuff. And then when she graduated, she was a choral director in high school for a few years, then got a master's in administration, was a principal for a while. Then her dream came true, and she became the director of the Green Bay Science Center in Green Bay, Wisconsin, as in charge of raising the standards of science, math, engineering, and technology throughout the whole state of Wisconsin. Then I married her 12 years ago, and she came to California doing the same thing now. She's on the faculty of the Smithsonian Institute in D.C. and on the International Board of Directors of Nanotechnology. Again, and see, so when I go guest conduct someplace, she takes her black dress and her music, and she sings in whatever chorus I'm conducting, except for young college players. But she can participate in anything I do. But when I go with her to science conventions, anyway, thanks for unconditional love, dear heart. My goal tonight, and boy, this is scary, you guys. You have to know this is scary. I can conduct 5,000 singers somewhere, or I can give lectures on Beethoven and conduct symphony orchestra, and it's just, I just love it. It's just me, I'm comfortable. But to talk to this group about, I don't know what. My writers are really good over in the music building, like Beethoven and Brahms. They're terrific. And so I had to, see, this is my last lecture at UCLA. And so, look, all I care about is that I say something that's worth your listening to and that might help you. That's all. That's all. Nothing earth-shaking. I'm not going into research-oriented stuff or anything like that. I'm just going to try and see, or I have tried to see, what people I've admired who were successful and fulfilled in their work and their life, what they do, what they like. So I'm sort of going to divide it into two segments. Success and fulfillment. That means you're succeeding and you're happy in what you do for your work, and the same thing in your life. And they're not the same. Living's different. You are not defined by your work. We are defined by the kind of people we are, not by our work. And so they're very different. The overriding challenge of the evening will be strive for perfection. If you've heard that before, raise your hand. Okay. Nobody remembers Alexander the Ordinary. No. You can strive for perfection, and the UCLA Choral does exactly that, and they achieve perfection over there on Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 5. Not every minute of that 2 hours, but a lot of times, well, we're on a process. But a lot of times, they will achieve perfection, and I will say, do you realize what you just sang, you sang perfectly? 100 people, sounding like one, in perfect tune, everything right, stylistically, if it's Beethoven or Bach or Brahms or that, it was perfect. And so they know they can achieve perfection. Not all of them, all the time, no. most of the time, if they think intensely about what they're doing. So perfection is possible. I want to tell you where I first learned that it's not only possible, but it's something we ought to be doing. Vince Lombardi was the greatest football coach probably ever, and he was at Green Bay, ironically, Wisconsin. And he came around 67, 8, 9, 70. I was actually teaching at the University of Wisconsin-Madison at that time. And when he took over the Green Bay Packers, they'd had losing seasons several years in a row. And before they started their practice sessions before the regular season began, he said, "Gentlemen, we need a team meeting." He said, "I want to make it very clear that I will only accept perfection from this team. Perfection in running, perfection in blocking, perfection in passing, perfection in receiving, perfection in everything. And then when the season starts and we run up against excellence, we'll defeat it." And they won the next 2 Super Bowls. They won the next 2 Super Bowls, having been losers. Perfection is possible. We just don't realize it. We don't think about it enough. We think excellence is wonderful and very good is also good. Can you imagine what would happen if our parents and all of our teachers, since we're this little, had taught and expected with love, compassion, and understanding perfection from us in everything? Not demanding it or forcing it or giving us hell when we don't do it right, but just encouraging it in everything. Can you imagine what we would be like today? And that kind of accomplishment brings self-esteem for you. Now, a lot of the things I'm going to say you already know, but I had to get a speech. Obviously, if you do something really, really well, we win all the games. You get A+ in the toughest subject you've ever had. Your self-esteem rises. And there are few things in our lives more important than self-esteem. Success breeds it. Self-esteem breeds success. So go for that. Why not go for that? And when you don't achieve it, just pick yourself up and keep going like they do in the Olympics. What does the great skater do? They fall back there up that path and it's like it never happened. And that's, why don't we just live our life like Olympians? We have the option. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the formula for success and fulfillment in your work. Number 1, pick the thing you do best. Don't plan on a life's work on your 3rd best talent. Pick the thing you think about it. What do you do best? What's your greatest passion? What do you find the greatest joy in? And do that. Don't do something because your parents want you to do it. I've had students come and talk to me. I'm majoring so-and-so because I have to. What I'd really rather do is, well, maybe you have to wait just a little while, feed your parents, get that degree, then get the degree you really want. But you'll never make it if it isn't the thing you're most passionate over, and that you don't find the greatest, deepest joy, and that you're best in. Second thing, envision yourself doing it and succeeding and being the best there is. Envision yourself, see yourself, dream about it. Sit there and think like you're seeing a video of you doing this down the road, and you're great at it. And the more you envision it, and the more you see yourself doing it, the better chance you have that you're going to end up doing it. And copy other people. Emulate other people who are greater than you, who are at the top of the field that you want to enter. Be like them. In fact, don't even be like them, be them. What about the little kids? Downtown playing basketball on the asphalt basketball court. They don't even have a net on the hoop. And they're dribbling behind themselves, between their legs, throwing it over the head, and it's like they're Kobe Bryant. Why? Because they are. They are. They've watched them on TV, and they can do it better than any coach could have ever taught them. They absorbed what Kobe Bryant is doing, and they went out and did it till they got good at it. Like Marty Sklar says in his book, dream it, do it. You need to get the book. Dream it, do it. And that's just what I got done doing. From a young guy in my 20s, I dreamt that I could be a really, I don't want to say successful or whatever, conductor of choruses and orchestras. My love all through school was sports and music. Varsity sports in high school, varsity sports in college, band, orchestra, choir, everything in high school, band, orchestra, choir, opera, college. I just did it all. And then finally I realized that the ones who were making it in sports were younger than I was. That means I was too old. And so music ended up the winner. Thank God. Have faith in yourself that you can do it. There's no reason for you not to have faith in yourself. I don't care what anybody has told you over the years. There is no reason for you not to have faith in you. There is no limitation on anyone in this room other than those limitations we put on ourselves. No one can limit you unless you let them. So the whole world's your oyster. Figure out what you want to do and go for it. But when you start a career path, I would recommend that you don't think of it as a career, but as a mission. I don't care what you're in, cardiologist or a buyer for North. It doesn't matter what you do. You can think of it as a mission that you're going to serve. You're going to serve the mission of that art, that job, whatever that job is. You're going to serve that job. And you're going to serve people who are affected by that job. And you're going to see yourself as a lifelong servant. Not a career. Not a career. And then when you get a job that's in that area, always treat it like it's going to be the only job you're ever going to have. Because you want it. You want to stay in that job forever. Never use a job as a stepping stone to another job. Because you'll only give it half of your effort. Your other half will be looking somewhere else. And if you do it like, and I don't mean because you have to, but because you want to stay there forever, you love it so much, you'll do so well, people will ask you to go to different places. You don't even have to apply. I remember my first job was at a little tiny high school in Indiana, Middletown, Indiana. There were 187 kids in the whole high school. And I got the job because I was broke. And I was, as I said, wasn't making it in pro baseball or something. So I just took it. Found out I loved it more than anything I'd ever done in my life. And I was so happy. I was going to stay there forever. 16 kids showed up for choir. And so for a whole year, I just did pop music. I found out what was on the top 40 charts, arranged it for these kids to sing, brought in guitar, drums, and all that stuff. And we did that for a whole year. Our Christmas concert was in the halftime of a basketball game in tuxedos and candles, circling the gym with the lights out for about 11 minutes. That was a Christmas concert. But I loved it. And I can see those kids, like, I see them sitting right here. And because I loved it so much, and we did such a grand time, at the end of that year, out of the 187 kids in the high school, 164 tried out for choir. And the principal came to me and said, we ain't going to keep you. I said, of course you are. I'm going to be here the rest of my life. Always have a mentor. We don't know enough not to have a mentor. We're not experienced enough, or wise enough, or knowing enough not to have a mentor. Mentors have lived and experienced and succeeded where you're going. They can tell you not only how to do what you're going to do, they can tell you when you're wrong. You don't know when you're wrong. We don't know when we're wrong, or we wouldn't do what wouldn't do it wrong. They will tell you. I had several mentors all along the line. One was a great scholar, musicologist. These are people who don't conduct, they just study music. Their whole life long. They're in the library all the time. They know everything that's in every book, and they can tell you how to do Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, every composer, and how to do, how fast it goes, how slow it goes, how loud it is, how soft it is. They tell you everything. So right away, I got connected with these kind of people, and I remember this one, Julius Herford, who came from Germany, escaping Hitler in 1937. He was Jewish, and he had been the concert pianist, a choral, a musical scholar, and the conductor of the Berlin Philharmonic Chorus. Came to this country. I got finally hooked up with him, and I studied with him for 13 years. I would go to his house and study on a Saturday from 9 to 5, once a month. Then he'd give me an assignment for the class. Or when I was teaching at a university, wherever it would be, I would go study with him, and I would bring him to that university for a week before a concert, like this Beethoven concert we're doing June 7th. I would bring him first the week just before. And he would sit right here in all our rehearsals and tell me what's wrong with what I'm doing. And remember, we don't know enough to know what's wrong. He would say, and he was very, very German. He would say, stop. He'd look at me. That was just beautiful, but all wrong. Work's a good thing. Work hard. Really work hard. Like, in sports, be the first one on the field and the last one to leave in practices. Be the first one in and the last one out. Just give more than anybody else. Work harder than anybody else. Robert Shaw, who he said was one of my teachers and mentors, sort of the greatest choral conductor ever. When somebody said to his mother, "Your son's a genius," she said, "No, he just works harder than anybody else." And when I was teaching at Eastman School of Music, I brought him there to give him his 40th honorary doctorate. And I asked him to talk to my conducting students about stuff, and they asked questions. And finally, at the end of the 2-hour session, they hadn't asked the question. I wanted them to answer, so I said, "Robert, would you tell them how much time you spend studying the scores you're going to eventually conduct?" "Every waking hour," was his answer. Every waking hour. Is that a good thing? No. That's too much. But it's a standard. It's a standard of the guy who did better than anyone else in America in choral music and raised choral music in a nation higher than anybody else could have ever thought of. He sacrificed his life for that. So I have to tell my doctoral students, no, don't spend every waking hour. If you have kids, go coach their little league, your daughter or your son's little league ball team. Have a life. Have a life. Next, be filled with integrity toward your life and your work. That's simply being honest and sincere. Sometimes honesty is tough. Always pays off in the long run. And be sincere. Be sincere. When people talk to you, let it be known that they're getting a straight scoop from you, the real you. Be honest. Be generous of spirit. Give to others. And I mean give. Giving is so great, far better than receiving. Give to your fellow students. Give to your parents and grandparents. Give to the homeless. Give some guy or gal standing on the street with a card for the homeless. Now people tell me, don't do that, Don. They are even sometimes organized. They make more than you make. No. I would rather give something, a $5 or $20 or $1, whatever I can afford, to somebody who looks like he needs it, than judge whether or not he or she needs it. And so they go, yeah, but I'm going to spend it on booze and drugs. I don't care what they spend it on. Maybe they'll spend it on food and clothing. But I don't care. Why would I care what they spend it on? I just there's an innate need in us to give to somebody else. So honor that need. And be generous. Generous of not only with resources, but of spirit. Be complimentary to people who succeed. Don't think that their succeed negates your potential. Be generous when you go out to compliment somebody on something they've just done. Be specific. I always think when someone comes up after a concert and says to me, congratulations, Don. I want to say, about what? That I didn't fall off the stage? Didn't you notice anything? There's 4 words, 2 plus 2, that are really important. One's thank you. Thank people. Some car lets you in your car in, wave, and say thanks. Don't just go in. Somebody in a car lets you cross the street in front of them, wave and say thank you. Don't just walk in front of them. And anytime you can thank somebody, thank them. With sincerity and honesty. And the other 2 words are, I'm sorry. Let it be easy for you to say, I'm sorry. We don't intentionally do harmful stuff to anybody, but when we unintentionally do something, let's be quick to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Some people have a hard time with all 4 words, but especially those 2. And they don't realize when you say sincerely, you're sorry, you're relieving yourself from the pain of what you did. Value being polite, courteous, and having good manners. And that ain't old-fashioned. Value being polite, courteous, and good manners. Women, girls, encourage your guys to be a gentleman. A gentleman. Some guys don't even know what that is. There's a gap in tone. Encourage it. Kindly. Let a guy open a door for you. Don't say, I can open myself. Let him be a gentleman. Let him let you go in to the restaurant first. People who are gentle people, gentlemen, gentlewomen, courteous, polite, mannerly, they just make the environment of humankind better. If you need to find out what that is, gals, you need to find out what it is to be a real lady. Find out. Women are by far the most special creatures on earth. They give birth, they nurture. They're peacemakers in families and communities, far more than men. So it's up to you guys to honor you. And it's up to you to honor yourself. Allow others their beliefs, values, and decisions. Judge not. Avoid being critical of others unless you've walked a mile in their moccasins. Take care of your own backyard. We don't need to criticize other people's values or their faiths or anything about them. I need you to take care of me. Make sure I'm doing the best I can for myself and the people I affect. We don't need so right off the bat I wrote all this out. And I can't find it, I'm gonna look for it. Anyways, whatever. We don't need people to criticize other people and to be doomsayers and I can't think of the 2 or 3 words I want to say here, but you know what I'm talking about. We don't need pessimists, we need optimists. Honor tradition. Honor your parents' generation and your grandparents' generation. Sure, break out like they did with your own new ideas, but don't only be a rebel. That's not enough. Honor past generations, like the Native American Indians always did, honoring their elders, learning from the wisdom. You can't get wisdom until you grow old enough to have it. You don't get it by taking a course for a degree. You get knowledge. But your parents, whether you agree with them or not, have wisdom because they lived more than you. And your grandparents have the most. Go visit people in a senior citizen's home. Ask them what they think about stuff. Say, I'd like to learn about life from you. Tell me some stuff. Now, I will be honest with you. Go to myself, if it did not take a vulnerable risk right now, crossing over the line a bit, and sharing with you the key factors of whatever in my life I've been able to do that's worthwhile. And it's good, straight out personal, and it's taking a risk. But just hear me out. I somehow in my early 20s found a really belief in God. Not a faith or a religion. I was born into a religion. But I found a feeling within me about a God, a supreme universal being. We don't have to go to church or temple. That there is just a supreme universal entity with ultimate creativity, knowledge, and wisdom, energy, power, and strength, unconditional love, and forgiveness. Now you think about that. Can you come up with anything you think is more awe-inspiring than ultimate creativity, knowledge, and wisdom, creativity, knowledge, and wisdom, energy, ultimate power, ultimate strength, unconditional love, and forgiveness. Somehow, without anybody telling me that or forcing me to do that or think that way, it was just in me in my 20s. And so, as a result, I thought, well, I think I ought to give my music to whoever or whatever that is. Just give it. So I said, for lack of a better term, God, I give you my music. All I want to do is do it how you want me to do it and where you want me to do it. I don't care where it is, who it's with, what it's doing. Six university positions have happened since then. 4 symphony orchestra positions. Guest conducting all over the world. And I never applied for one job. I have never filled out a job application. Never. For 2 basic reasons. One, because I was going to stay where I was in every job I ever had. So I gave it everything I had. And 2, I gave it to my musical life, to whomever, whatever, the universal supreme being. So I'm not preaching religion. I'm just saying there is something there, and it's been proven in my life. I have it, and it's really available for your thinking. I've prayed so many times, God, help my mind to function. Give me your thoughts. It's never failed, but when that happened, I did better than I knew I could. Never once. And I've off that prayer thousands of times. Another one is, just God again, for lack of a better word. Would you please be the bridge for me between what I am and what is needed of me by some people or an event like tonight? And I don't ever remember God letting me down. Maybe it's because I was sick or had family involvements or community involvements or some kind of, and I could not study my music enough to stand up in front of the choir and do a good job. And I said, God, will you be, here I am, this is what's needed of me, would you please be the bridge? Hundreds of times, happened every time. Lastly, I think I've been privileged and helped in that same manner by doing it my way. Like Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. And I really did it. Now, I didn't know I was. After I got my bachelor's degree and taught in high school for 5 years, I was going to get a master's degree in conducting, so I called Northwestern University, and I was going to go there, and my old alma mater, Ball State University of Muncie, Indiana, called me and said, your old choral director just resigned. If you'll come here to get your master's degree, you can be the choral director. As like a teaching assistant. So I said, well, great. So while I was doing my master's degree, I was also conducting the choir and the men's glee club, teaching voice lessons and teaching coursework in choral music, doing a full job. I was my own major professor. I got all A's and didn't learn anything. So then when I got out, this Robert Shaw, great guy, and this German music guy, they said, we need to take care of this boy. Because they said, you have so much energy and you don't know anything. And so they did. And so from that point on, instead of getting a doctorate, I studied with every person I could find in America who knew stuff I didn't know about choral music. I studied African American spirituals with Chester Harrison, the guy who did all over the world till he died a few years ago. He was the master at singing Negro spirituals. So I studied those with him. Or I'd study Renaissance music. I'd go to a Renaissance 1500s guy and say, would you map out a whole program? I'll do everything you say with my choir on a Renaissance concert, and you come to all the rehearsals and tell us how to do it. Or Brahms was Brahms scholar, Bach was Bach scholar, contemporary music with composers. And so I was doing everything. I originated show choirs in America. Do you believe that? Show choir. and Broadway musicals, and chamber music, and opera, and symphonies, and all that stuff. So by doing it my way, I meant I was just given the opportunity to study one-on-one with the greatest people in America and learn by doing it in the trenches all over the place. So I never earned it. But because of all this stuff that was given to me, I was able to establish the doctorate in choral conducting at the Eastman School of Music in UCLA. And I believe all that stuff comes from heaven, from faith and connection, the humility, have some faith. With a being that's powerful, more powerful than I am, and can help me. I would hate to depend on me for everything. And when we fail, can we do all these things I mentioned? No. Consistently? No, I can't. Some of them I didn't even know about till I was a lot older. And should you expect yourself to do everything we talked about tonight? No, not consistently. But if we don't hold it up there, if we aren't aware of the potential of our behavior, if we don't know what that is, we can't go there. You gotta have a plan, even for that. Again, going to an old African-American guy that's the greatest hymn singer in America, Tommy Tippett. He's in his 80s. And he goes all over the world singing hymns better than anybody else does at his age. He goes to senior citizen homes or assisted living places and sings for nothing. And he was singing in one of those places, and they wheeled all the people in from their rooms, some in wheelchairs, some with walkers. And he starts singing these old, wonderful, heartfelt hymns. And one lady old lady started singing along with him. He found out later she had not spoken for 2 years. And she spoke freely ever after that. So we can't do everything all the time. But he told me, when I said to him a few weeks ago, Tommy, I'm retiring and I don't want to retire. I live in Anaheim Hills. God lived there. That's where Sue works. I have an international televised church choir there, and we've got to live there. And I can't drive. You don't want an 80-year-old driving on these highways anymore, you know. And so I hope I'm gonna keep doing everything I can possibly do. But Tommy said, Don, I gotta tell you this, Tommy, I wish you'd see, about 6'4", he was a great basketball player as a kid. Now he's, like I said, 80 by 8. He shined shoes as a kid on the sidewalk out in front of the Capitol, Washington, D.C. When he grew up, he sang there for the president, for more than one president, from shining shoes to singing to the president. And he said, Don, it's just like when I played basketball. You gotta plan the play and play the plan. That's pretty darn good advice. You plan the play, in other words, you plan what you're gonna do till life or God changes your mind. And you go for it. You plan the play. And then like a good basketball team, you get out there, you play the plan. Play the plan. As the great actress Shirley MacLaine's father told her, Shirley, aim for the stars, just get over the roof. And that's what we do. But Ashley, you gotta remember that this world is getting smaller. You can talk to anybody with just a click. Anywhere in the world. It gets smaller, smaller, and smaller. And as it does, we need good people to make a difference. And you can, as one person, you can make a difference. You throw one stone in a pond, and the ripples go all over the place. You can make a difference in this small world. If you take a risk, you dream big, and you prioritize peace and love. So, it's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. It's a small, small world. Thank you.
a distinct pleasure on behalf of the Alumni Scholars Club and the student body of UCLA to officially present you with the 2014 My Last Lecture Award. Thank you very much for your support. We'll see you next year.